Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Manjeet Singh from University School of Applied Management, Punjabi University, Patiala. Today, we are going to discuss about a module on the topic Agriculture and Economic Development under the paper Business Environment. After completing this module, you should be able to understand the concepts and historical background of agriculture. You should also be in a position to understand agriculture and its importance in the Constitution of India. You will also be in a position to describe the role of agriculture in economic development, and then to understand the place and reasons for the backwardness of agriculture in the Indian economy. And lastly, you should be in a position to understand the progress of Indian agriculture. Agriculture is a very important sector of Indian economy. A large portion of population, about 3/4, is dependent upon agriculture, and this much population has a subsistence occupation, and they are largely dependent upon it being engaged in trade, agriculture product, and agro-based industries. Large population of India live in rural villages, and many of the industries get their raw material from the agriculture sector. At the start of British rule, the Indian economy was by and large self-sufficient, possessing a fine balance between the agriculture and the industry. Apart from being agriculturists, there were other classes of people in rural areas like potters, weavers, carpenters, washermen, oilmen, barbers, etc. All these occupations were hereditary and passed from father to son by tradition. The people engaged in these occupations got paid out, out of the crops at the time of harvest for the services rendered by them. At that time, agricultural activities were mainly devoted to food crops like wheat, millets, and paddy. Most of the food produced in the village was consumed by the village population itself. However, the Britishers pursued a trade policy which encouraged exports of raw material and import of manufactured goods. The farmers were forced to switch over from the food crops to cash crops like jute, cotton, indigo, and tobacco. And they were forced to sell these products to the Britishers so as to export them to Britain. Commercialization of agriculture was intensified by the development of railways, and the shift from food crops to cash crops disturbed the balance between demand and supply of food grains, which resulted into famines and scarcities. Agriculture in the Constitution of India. Agriculture is a state subject according to the entry 14 in the list second of the state list of 7th schedule of the Constitution of India. Most of the components of the agriculture as such figure in the state list, but certain aspects of agriculture fall in the concurrent list and the union list as well, such as fisheries belonging to the state list in the entry 21, but fishing and fisheries beyond territorial waters belong to the union list in the entry 57. The enlargement of entry 33 in the concurrent list through the Constitution, Third Amendment Act 1954, made agriculture virtually a concurrent subject. It reads as follows: trade and commerce in and the production, supply, and distribution of the products of any industry where the control of such industry by the Union is declared by Parliament by law to be expedient in the public interest, and imported goods of the same kind as such products, foodstuffs, including edible oilseeds, oils, cotton fodder, including oil cakes, other concentrate, raw cotton, which is gin or ungin, and cotton seeds and the raw jute. Thus, trade, commerce, production, supply, and distribution of foodstuffs, including edible oils and the oil seeds, are covered by the concurrent list. Role of agriculture in economic development. Agriculture influences economic development in many ways. It stimulates industrial production. It affects the supply of food and raw materials. It also influences the supply of labor, supply of foreign exchange, resources for capital formation, and in providing employment opportunities. Now let us try to understand the role of agriculture in economic development. Agriculture plays a very important role in the various sectors of the economy. Firstly, it provides the food and the raw material. In the development of an economy, agriculture literally feeds the process of development. It meets the needs for the food grains and also supplies the raw materials for many consumer items like edible oil, sugar, clothing, etc. Further, food grains constitute an important wage good in underdeveloped economies. One can easily say that in case of shortage of food, a country can import these commodities from other nations. But it's neither possible as the foreign exchange in these developing countries is also limited, and it is this agriculture products are in a way also required for the other industrial development purposes. So it is very important that the agriculture should be given due importance so that they can supply food and other things for the development of the country. Then the second important role played by agriculture in the development of the economy is through supply of labor. Agriculture also contributes to development through the supply of labor. It provides work to majority of the labor force in the country. In the less developed countries, quite an important portion of labor force remains in disguised unemployment, as agriculture being unprogressive and subject to constraint like the given supply of land is not able to absorb all the increase in the labor force productively. Another important role played by agriculture in the development of economy is to provide employment opportunities to the countrymen. There is an immediate problem of providing more productive work to those who are depending upon this sector. An increase in the production and productivity in agriculture will create more jobs and raise the volume of work to be done. So in both ways, there will be expansion of employment opportunities for a larger number than before. Beside this, the direct employment in the sphere of crop raising, agriculture expansion also provides work in the other spheres. Agriculture also stimulates the industrial production. Most of the part of incomes of rural people is coming from the agriculture expansion, and it can enhance the industrial growth as well. In the beginning, large part of additional incomes should go to saving, and that saving should get channelized into capital formation, which can promote the industries. Investments in the industries will lead to future expansion, which creates wealth and many more employment opportunities. Role of agriculture in the supply of foreign exchange. Agriculture can contribute a great deal in the earning of foreign currency through the export of agriculture products. The requirements for the expansion of exports can be easily met by adding a crop or a two within the existing cropping pattern, and that too with perhaps no additional capital investments. Further, since such exports have to cater to the existing and familiar international market, no additional costs are involved to discover or nurture new markets. Role of agriculture in generating resources for capital formation. Agriculture can also contribute to the growing country's needs for large capital resources. This is all more important because with the existing modern capitalist sector being small, there is a little that can come from this sector by the way of surpluses or profits for investments. On the other hand, agriculture, as is the case in India, is a big size sector. It can contribute more for the development of the industrial sector because the primary industries run with the help of raw material which comes from agriculture. For example, sugar industry, juice factory, cotton industry, etc. Place of agriculture in the Indian economy. Agriculture contributes to the national income. It is a major source of livelihood. It increases the foreign trade. It creates employment opportunities. It facilitates more capital investment. It provides food and the fodder. It influences industrial structure, transport, and other services. It has an important place in the government budget as well, and it helps in economic planning. Contribution of agriculture to the national income. Agriculture contributes almost 25% to the national income of the country. The sum total of goods and services produced in the country at a given point of time is known as gross domestic product, or we also call it GDP. We have noticed that there is more contribution of the non-agriculture sector to the GDP in comparison to agriculture sector. But this can be increased, and it is the need of the hour for the coming time. Agriculture sector is the basic source of saving and therefore increase in capital formation of the country. Secondly, agriculture is a major source of livelihood. One of the major sources of livelihood is agriculture. More than 70% of the rural Indian people depend on agricultural activities in one sense or the other for their livelihood. The people dependent on agriculture in the foreign countries, which are developed nations such as America, Japan, and Germany, have less population dependent on agriculture in comparison to India. Role of agriculture in promoting foreign trade. Agriculture in India plays an important role in the enhancement of international trade. The commodities which are exported from India are oil cakes, tea, vegetables and fruits, coffee, cotton, spices, tobacco, sugar, flowers, vegetable oils, and raw wool. Agriculture contributes a noticeable part in the Indian exports. With the invention of organic farming and the increased emphasis on organic farming, the exports has also increased in the last few decades. Agriculture also creates employment opportunities. Indian agriculture gives employment and work to a vast majority of people, especially to the rural crowd. In rural and backward areas, almost 70%, rather more than 70% of the masses earn their livelihood from cultivation and allied agro industries. Agriculture is also helpful in increasing the employment opportunities in the manner that is helpful in the industrial growth and expansion, which leads to the increase in employment. Agriculture leads to more capital investment. In today's world, modern agriculture equipments are used for cultivation, irrigation, land preparation, banding, harvesting, ploughs, etc., which requires huge amount of investment. Income leads to the savings and savings leads to investments. As we know that agriculture contributes almost 25% to the national income of the country, there will be saving from the agriculturists and it will lead to capital formation. Agriculture provides food and fodder. In India, agriculture fulfills almost the entire food requirements of the people. Agriculture also provided fodder to sustain the livestock whose number runs into several crores. The livestock like cattle, buffaloes, sheep, goat, horses, ponies, etc., has also its food from the agriculture. These provide employment and income to the large number of people in the rural and hilly areas. Agriculture also influences the industrial structure, transport, and other services. Agriculture provides a large quantity of raw material to the industrial setups. Many industries process agricultural products and many other manufactured agriculture products into finished goods. Internal trade too is influenced by agriculture operations. A large part of the transport is also dependent on agriculture. Other allied services of trade and commerce like banking, insurance, and storage also get benefited from the agriculture. Place of agriculture in the government budget. Agriculture is also considered to be the vote bank in India. The budgets of central as well as state governments have been influenced by the land revenue and income tax on the one hand, and the expenditure on its development on the other hand. The more important budgetary operations having relevance to the agriculture is the massive expenditure that is being incurred on it for several purposes, including a large part of agriculture development. Place of agriculture in facilitating the economic planning. Importance of agriculture in the national economy can be depicted from many facts. For example, agriculture is the main support for India's transport system since railways and roadways secure bulk of their business from the movement of goods. Internal trade is mostly in agriculture product. Therefore, agriculture helps in economic planning of the country. Reasons for the backwardness of Indian agriculture. These are uneconomic and fragmented holdings, excess or surplus labor in agriculture, inadequate non-farm services, defective land tenure structure, poor inputs and technologies, inadequate irrigation facilities, indebtedness of the farmers, low adoption of improved technology, absence of innovations in agriculture, rural transport and communication network. Now, the reasons for the backwardness of Indian agriculture. One of the most prominent reason is the uneconomic and fragmented holdings. The marginalization of farmers is a dominant factor which adversely affects the household income. Over 60% of the operational holdings are below 1 hectare and 22% of the holding are in the farm size group of 1 to 2 hectares. Such small holdings are uneconomic and results in underinvestment in agriculture leading to low input use and low production. Another important reason for the backwardness of Indian agriculture is the excess or surplus labor in the agriculture sector. Now, one of the most important factor for less agriculture labor productivity is the overcrowding in agriculture. As said earlier, disguised unemployment exists in the agriculture sector. So as the population increases, the pressure on land also increases because of the natural increase is not absorbed by the industrial sector. So this is the second important factor for the backwardness of Indian agriculture. Another important reason for this backwardness is inadequate non-farm services. The farmers do not get the reasonable amount from the sale of agriculture produce because they are not aware about the finance and the marketing activities. At some places, the marketing system is defective and costly. The rising prices of diesel and other fuels have increased the transportation costs. Modern storage facilities are inadequate and indigenous. Farmers still have to depend upon the money lenders for their day-to-day requirements. Another reason is the defective land tenure structure. The land tenure system in India has been depressing and disincentive ridden. It is inbuilt characteristic to the support stagnation. The main feature has been the presence of intermediaries, small and fragmented holdings, exploitative owner-tenant relationship, and heavy pressure on the population on the land. Another important reason for the backwardness of Indian agriculture is poor inputs and techniques. The techniques and methods of cultivation have been old and inefficient. It results in high cost of production and low productivity. These methods have not undergone a major change for centuries. The investment in agriculture in the form of manures and fertilizers, improved seeds, irrigation, tools and implements, and other types of assets has been miserably low. Another reason for the backwardness of Indian agriculture is inadequate irrigation facilities. One of the main reasons for the weakness of Indian agriculture has been the lack of irrigation facilities in the country. The farmers have to depend upon rainfall, and very few of them can avail the facilities of irrigation systems. Sometimes droughts are there, sometimes floods are there, which invariably spoil the whole cultivation and the crops. Another reason for the backwardness of Indian agriculture is indebtedness of the farmers. There is an old saying that the farmers in India are born in debt, live in debt, die in debt, and need debt. The reason for their indebtedness are many, such as hereditary debt, litigation, want of supplementary incomes, and wasteful social expenditure. Low adoption of improved technology. The adoption of high-yielding varieties is very rare in India. The important reason of the slow growth of high-yielding variety area are the non-availability of suitable seeds, predominance of traditional seeds, short supply of recommended seeds, and the defective distribution system. Another reason is absence of innovations in agriculture. Absence of alternative crops for escaping pre-monsoon showers to avoid the problems of pre-harvest sprouting of crop in flood periods is a major problem. There is lack of improved crop management practices for shifting cultivation. The facilities of storage, processing, and marketing are particularly deficient for perishable commodities. Another reason is rural transport and communication network. Most of the rural areas remain inaccessible during the rainy season for the non-availability of all-weather roads. Roads are found to be highly damaged and there are no proper transport facilities to the access of the villagers. What is the way ahead? How the Indian agriculture can progress? Certain areas where the intervention is required, government measures, expanding government's role, laudable objectives, appropriate measures, and considerable resources. Government measures. Through the 5-year plans, the Government of India has played an active role in the development of agriculture. Proper objectives have been laid down in the various plans. According to these objectives, corresponding measures have been spelled out. All the activities are directed towards the achievement of these objectives. Expanding the government's role. From the first 5-year plan, the government realized that for the development of agriculture, the government has to play an important role, which would be crucial one. Agriculture is the backbone of the economy, and the poor farmers cannot uplift themselves unless and until the government comes in a big way. That's why the measures are needed for the upliftment of agriculture, which are to be taken by the government. In the recent years, the government's actions has expanded to include more and more programs for the rural development, and special area programs have also been initiated. Laudable objectives. The objectives in different plans are varied from time to time. Somewhere the aim was to increase the productivity and elsewhere to improve the quality of food grains. Land reforms have been the other significant objective. Another important objective was to uplift the weaker sections of the society. For example, the small and marginal farmers, landless agricultural laborers, and many of those engaged in the activities allied to agriculture, such as animal husbandry, fisheries, etc. Appropriate measures. In order to achieve these objectives, many measures have been taken by the Government of India. For example, to increase the production and productivity, the supply of inputs, infrastructure facilities, extension of irrigation, modern technology-based seeds, chemical fertilizers have been provided by the government. The infrastructural facilities include banking, marketing, credit, transportation, communication, finance, education, and information dissemination, etc. Considerable resources. Large resources have been devoted to the agriculture development. These have been on the rise from plan to plan. The funding for the development of agriculture has also been increased from time to time. For the control of droughts and floods, many funds have been given by the government. Special programs for the benefit of rural people have also been introduced along with the industrial development. So the students, let us summarize what we have learned in this module. The national policy on agriculture seeks to actualize the vast untapped growth potential of Indian agriculture. They want to strengthen the rural infrastructure to support faster agriculture development and to promote value addition and accelerate the growth of agro-based industries. There is a need to create the employment in the rural areas and secure a fair standard of living for the farmers and the agriculture workers and their families, because this will result into the discouragement for the migration to the urban areas and to face challenges arising from the economic liberalization and globalization. So in this module on agriculture, its history and agriculture in the Constitution of India have been discussed. Then the role of agriculture in the economic development of the country is explained in detail. So at the end, the measures required for the progress of agriculture has also been highlighted.